Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Quick Tie. My name is Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bover Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying. We want to thank Rocky Mountain Fly Shop for sponsoring this Quick Tie for you guys today. What we're going to be tying up today is this guy here. We got the Ruby Eyed Leech. Cool little leech pattern. Utilizes a few different skills that we haven't used a lot of. So we'll get into that here shortly, but first I want you to take a moment to like and subscribe to this video. Leave a comment, let us know that you're here and part of the Quick Tie squad. It helps us a ton, and share it with a friend. Today we are going to be tying out of Season 5, Episode 14. And if you haven't grabbed your Season 5 kit yet, you still can head over to our website and grab that today. You can see that there on the screen. Head there and still pick up your kit. We are getting late on in the season, but the beauty of these quick ties is they're all up there in cache for you, so you can literally go in and just view the flies you want and watch a quick tie up of them and go along and use that as instruction. Okay, let's head on over to the vise and get to the reason we're actually here. So you can see our leech here, very, very simple. We're tying it out of a couple of dubbing and flash fiber materials. This is called the Ruby Eyed Leech because just in front here, just behind that cone, we have a bead that sits in there. That bead is normally tied in either orange or red, so that's where the ruby eye comes from. We got an orange bead in there today. And yeah, we'll take you through it, pretty simple. So we're gonna be tying this on a size 6 hook, streamer hook. So I'm gonna grab that hook, and the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my cone on. So always put the point through the smaller hole, okay? I got that, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put that little bead I have in here on. Slide that on the hook, and then we can get our hook into our vise. If I can get this bead on here. Some of the beads get a little stuck at times. Here, I'm gonna have to grab another one because that one is struggling. That's okay. So cone on, and then we grab that bead and put it on next, like so. We'll get that fixed in our vise here, and you can see you've got the two on there. We need to separate them to start with. Now, just go a piece on your desk somewhere if you can. You can do this with thread and build up, but it's a little easier if you have just a little tiny chunk of lead-free wire or lead wire. This is just like an 0.25. I'm just gonna do a few wraps of it. We're just doing this to shove this up into the cone. And while it's up there in the cone, it's gonna kind of brace and hold that bead back away. So I'm just putting a few wraps, that's maybe 4 or 5 wraps on there. I'll take some scissors, some dull scissors. And if they aren't dull before you do that, they'll definitely be dull after you do that. And we will get that pushed right up into the cone. And what that does is, for one thing, it holds the cone in place. And secondly, when I slide this bead up here, it's gonna hold that bead just behind there. So that's what's gonna be visible, and that's where we get, like I said, that ruby-eyed version of it. I'm gonna grab here, I got some UTC, just in a dark color. This is a 140, and this is like a dark brown. I'm gonna start my thread just behind the bead, and I'm gonna work some wraps back. Okay, so you can tie this with a few different things. Like the choice of body material is normally done with a semi-seal or done with this flash material. So in the black stuff we've got here, you can see it's got a nice gloss to it. And then the red material is a little bit longer flash material that looks like this. And we're just gonna be cutting a little chunk off that. So what I first want you to do is I want you to go ahead and grab on some of that red fibers. I want you to grab a clump of it. Okay, I'm just gonna cut a clump that's, I'm generalizing this because I'll cut it shorter here in a minute, but make sure it's at least as long as the hook, a little longer. I'm gonna cut that out. And then I'm gonna go ahead, so you can see I just got that chunk of red like that. I'm gonna pull on a few of these fibers and pull them out a little bit so it creates a little bit of taper in the material so they don't look like they're perfectly cut off. And then I'm gonna come grab up in here, and I'm gonna find a length that's about a hook length in length out the back, okay? Don't want this leech to be super long. So let's set it right there. I'm gonna pinch. I'm gonna go ahead and tie that in right on top of the hook. Take a few thread wraps right back to the edge of the bend. So I got that little bit of red under there. I'm just gonna tip this up. I'm gonna leave this right to the bead, measure off the bead and cut there so I can secure all that down right up to the bead. Just creates a little bit of a bulk in the underbody. And now I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna grab some of our black. So I'm just gonna grab a pinch of this off of there. You can see it pulls apart quite nice. It's a little longer fibered, which is also nice. I'm gonna spin that up in my fingers. So I spin it up like this, and I kind of make a little bit of a roll out of it. And now I'm gonna come and I'm gonna set this right on top here and try to create a length that's roughly the same as the red. And now when I go to tie this in, I'm gonna push it so it envelops that hook. So I'm just working that material in and around the hook before I take that first thread wrap. And I just take 1 or 2 light ones and I just work my thumb around so it's almost enveloping that red material. And that's gonna be our tail. Pretty simple tail. And I'm gonna work that down. Don't worry about any of that little extra stuff that's sticking up. We're gonna cover all that up here shortly. So that should be what our tail looks like. Okay, we got a little bit of that ruby color mixed in with the black. But predominantly we do want the underside of it to look red. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create myself a dubbing loop. Okay, so remember 2 fingers on the thread, bring my bobbin forward, touch it back onto the hook shank. And I'm gonna toss that bobbin around it once, twice, and I bring it back up and I secure it against the hook shank. I'm gonna start this right about where that, the barb is on the hook is where I'm gonna leave this portion. So I'll come in here, I'm gonna take my dubbing spinner, I'm gonna hook it into that loop and I can lay that down and kind of get out of the way. Then I'm gonna bring my thread forward to right behind the bead, throw a quick little half hitch, which is just that simple overhand knot and our save button. We're gonna set that off to the side so it's out of our way. And now we're gonna build some dubbing to go into our dubbing noodle for the front portion of this fly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a clump, a pretty decent clump. I'm gonna pull it apart a couple times and I'm just taking that clump like this and I'm actually just gonna take it and I'm gonna lay it on the table in front of me. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna grab an equal size in length. Okay, so I'm gonna actually cut this off, measure it off of that dubbing there, find the length that I want it to be roughly, okay? I'm gonna cut that and I'm gonna cut it down right on top of that other dubbing. So when I grab it and I lift it up, you can see I've got the 2 together. Now this is kind of a little technique, we call it rolling dubbing. Okay, so I'm gonna take this dubbing in my hand and I'm just gonna keep kind of spinning and folding. I'm gonna pull it apart, I'm gonna stack it on top, pull it apart, stack it on top, and I'm gonna roll again. I'm just rolling and mixing, that's all I'm doing. I'm gonna pull out some of that red, stick it on the back, pull it apart again, stack it up. Okay, now when I look at it, it looks fairly predominantly red, so I'm gonna grab another pinch of the black. I'm gonna bring a bunch more of that black in. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna stack it, I'm gonna roll it, flip it, turn it, smack it.
Bop it, twist it.
Bop it, twist it. Just like that. Okay, so now I've just got a nice mix of the 2. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna open my dubbing noodle, or sorry, my dubbing loop. So you can see all I've done is open that up. I'm gonna take this dubbing and I'm gonna set it so I got equal portions on either side of the thread. So it looks like this. And now as I start to spread it out, you can see there's that really nice mix of black to red. Okay, and that's how we're gonna mix up that dubbing. It makes for a really unique looking thing. But I think that's gonna be a little bit light on material, so I'm gonna do just a little bit more. So I'm gonna do another pinch of black and another little piece of the red. So I'm gonna cut off another chunk of the red. I'm gonna grab myself a pinch of the black. And if I have too much, that's fine because I can always not tie in the entire noodle. Okay, so I just grabbed another section. I'm gonna do the exact same thing I just did, creating a little bit more. Grab a little more black. And if you have extra, you can always set it aside that you've mixed for the next fly you tie. So this is a pretty big clump, but I'm not gonna use it all. I'm just gonna mix it all together. And I'm gonna grab about half of it, about half. And I'm gonna put that in my dubbing noodle as well. Dubbing loop, sorry, I keep calling it a noodle. And now I'm just gonna spread all this out so it's evenly dense, like so. Place my finger below the material and give it a spin. So the reason we didn't do a super bulky tail on this is because I start wrapping this right at the back, it actually adds into the tail as well. So I wanna spin this enough that all the material spins up quite nice. You can tell that we call it roped up. And then I'm gonna come in here with a brush. Just any type of dubbing brush, or you can use a piece of Velcro on a stick, whatever it is. The Velcro is actually one of my favorites. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna comb it out a bit. If when I'm combing a whole bunch of material comes out, then I know that I've actually not spun it enough and I should give it a few more spins on my dubbing spinner. But this is holding together pretty good. Just spinning, pulling those bigger clumps out. getting some length to it. Now that I've done that, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start rotating. Okay, and as I go forward, I'm gonna pull all the materials back, trying not to wrap them on top of each other, but actually just creating this nice bulky leech. Okay, I'm gonna do this. And just touching wraps as I move forward. And hopefully I have enough, which I will on this one, to get to right behind that bead. And once I get behind the bead, you can see I'm still pulling all that material back and out of the way. This is gonna be the perfect amount. Pull that back. I'm gonna finish this right here. I'm gonna bring my thread back into the equation here. Take a wrap behind the noodle, or the loop. Behind the loop, in front of the loop. A couple times, make sure I have that secured. And then I can trim this out. And then all I have left to do is, I'm gonna whip finish this as well as I'm gonna comb it out. So take a good number of thread wraps right behind there. We wanna make sure that that stuff's not going anywhere. Then I'm gonna grab my whip finisher off this super clean desk I have here. And I'm gonna take a whip finish a couple times. And then I'm gonna get at it with the brush and I'm just gonna brush it out. Right now it kind of looks like a bit of a blop, but we will fix that. I'm gonna grab my brush and some Velcro, and then I'm just gonna work it up and work it back. Just brushing it all back and down. And grab my Velcro, do the same thing. And once this all gets in the water, it's gonna slim out a ton, so don't worry about it if it looks a little bulky. We want to maintain some of that. If you've ever seen a leech, they've always got kind of one side that's a little fatter than the other two, so it works into the illusion of what the fly is. So let it work back. It's going to taper into that tail that we put back there. A little bit more brushing. And hopefully that material doesn't pull out on you, because that would also be a bummer. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with a little bit of UV resin right behind that bead. I'm going to touch it. Just enough to cover up those thread wraps. And I'll grab my UV light, cure that. And I'll pop this out of here so you can see it a little better. There's our Ruby Eyed Leech. Great little pattern, super simple to tie. Once you start banging a few of these out, you'll realize how quick it goes. And great little pattern, great little leech pattern to add to the repertoire of all the other leeches that we love to fish. All right, guys, it's been Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bover Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying, and I want to thank you for joining this quick tie. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Another thanks to Rocky Mountain Fly Shop for bringing this to you today, and we'll see you next week with another pattern.